Kobbie Mainoo was awarded Player of the Match in his first ever start for England. Here is why he is the answer to England's midfield problem. England played out a pretty standard 2-2 draw against Belgium in one of their friendlies leading up to Euro 2024. This is some of the final chances that Gareth Southgate has to be able to make any kind of changes, any kind of tweaks, and to be able to bring players in that he might not normally think about. And that's where it got me thinking, and that's why I found this game so incredibly interesting, because of the inclusion of a one Kobbie Mainoo. Now, I think that the way he played during this match almost guarantees him a place on the plane to go to Euro 2024. I wasn't aware of how good his temperament would be during an England match. I didn't think that he really was going to be able to play as well as he did, but he was fantastic. Now, taking the result aside, I think the performance and the way that these players gel together is incredibly important, and the profile of player that gets put into the England side is something that really needs to be considered. Enter Kobbie Mainoo, because his performance, while it wasn't star-striking, it wasn't crazy, it wasn't overawingly brilliant, it was consistent, it was composed, it was clever. And some of these stats are really impressive. He managed to get 2 key passes in the game. That's one more than Jude Bellingham, I might add. He played for 74 minutes. He was pretty fantastic. He managed to win 5 out of his 11 duels. But the best thing about him for me in this match was his ability to transition and go forwards. His ability to make sure that he was able to take the ball and look forwards, to be able to pass forwards, to be able to get the attack starting. Not necessarily the key pass before the goal, but the pass before the pass. And for me, I think that's something that England have lacked in quite some time, and Kobbie Mainoo brought it through with abundance. He found the likes of Jude Bellingham, he found the likes of Phil Foden, always willing to play those risky passes through the lines to make it difficult for the opposition. And while it didn't come off sometimes, now you can see that with his accurate passes, which is still pretty ridiculous at 89%, I think that he was a revelation in that central midfield role, and we know that he got the Man of the Match award, and there's a reason for that. He was the player of the game. He was pretty fantastic. He managed to win a couple of tackles as well. He was fouled 3 times. He just managed to get an interception, 2 tackles. I think he was pretty good during this game, as I'm sure you can tell, and I think he solves a very, very serious problem that England have. And that problem is this: the makeup of the England midfield just isn't quite right for me. Now, you have to get a certain number of players into the starting 11 for me. I've mentioned that previously, and that doesn't change. I think you've got to have Jude Bellingham, I think you've got to have Declan Rice, and then for the midfield 3rd position, I think it's become a bit of a difficulty for Gareth Southgate. Jordan Henderson has gone off and not really set the world alight. Calvin Phillips has struggled to gain any minutes, and then you look to the likes of James Ward-Prowse and the likes of Ross Barkley, who, if we're really honest, if they haven't had a chance now, they're not going to make it into the lineup, so that's why I haven't included them here. But Kobbie Mainoo solves a really big issue that England have, and that's the fact that they're too defensive. The line in between the defence and the attack is lopsided. Generally, what you want is 5 defenders and 5 attackers. It allows for a better balance, it allows for them to be able to express themselves a bit better, and it also creates a harmony between the defence and the attack. The problem that England have is essentially self-imposed from Gareth Southgate himself, because he wants an extra holding midfielder. Now, this can be Jordan Henderson, it can be the likes of Calvin Phillips, but then what he wants occasionally is for them to go forwards. We saw this in the World Cup, we saw this in the previous Euros, where he relies on Calvin Phillips to go up and take this central attacking midfield role, but then drop back when it suits him to be able to play next to either Jordan Henderson or Declan Rice or whoever is the other holding midfielder. He prefers to play a 4-2-3-1 rather than a 4-3-3. Now, what difference does this make? Well, naturally, instead of having 5 players here, you've got 4, which offers less dynamic options when it comes to attacking play. It puts more reliance on the two wingers because you've got more people marking them, and it also puts a massive reliance on the central attacking midfielder that you've got in Jude Bellingham. He's already the most marked player on the pitch, and you're asking him to do a whole lot more. But Kobbie Mainoo has the ability to do both. He is comfortable on the ball enough to be able to come and receive it from Declan Rice and then spin and go forwards. At the same time, if he moves forwards, Rice can play as that holding midfielder. Mainoo comes forward, and what you see is 5 attackers and 5 defenders, and the split down the pitch is just that little bit more equal. Mainoo is then able to join the attack because of the way he's able to string passes, because of the positions that he takes up, the space that he takes, and it allows England just to flow that little bit better. His link up with Bellingham was seen in the match against Belgium, and I think given a little bit more time, I think it could flourish a little bit more. Mainoo's willingness to really present the ball through the lines and into the strikers or into the attacking players, I think is something that England have lacked severely. I like Declan Rice, I think he recycles the ball really well, but I think he hesitates on a couple of occasions to make sure that England stay in possession. It's his job. However, giving the impotence to Kobbie Mainoo to be able to take the ball forwards, I think is the next stage to this England midfield, and allowing Mainoo to play both roles. He can still come back for Gareth Southgate when he wants him to, but just allowing him to go forward and drift forwards into this slot makes England that little bit more naturally attacking. And then also what you've got is a balance down here. You've got Bellingham and Foden, you've got Mainoo and Saka, and then you've got Harry Kane, the main man, to enter the box. It just gives a better balance to the side, which isn't allowed by the likes of Calvin Phillips, it isn't allowed by Jordan Henderson, all the rest of the England players. Even Conor Gallagher doesn't necessarily have the control on the ball that Kobbie Mainoo has, or the willingness to play through the lines. I think he's got to be on the plane, and for me, if he continues this level of progression, he's got to be starting, because it creates a different option for England and allows them to be a little bit more dynamic. To give a little bit of context when it comes to the England slots, I've got Kobbie Mainoo compared against Jordan Henderson and Calvin Phillips. The first thing that I want to notice with these 3 players are shot creating actions, the ability for a player to really create either a shot or a goal. And Kobbie Mainoo is really good at taking on a player to be able to create a shot. He's got 3 take-ons which have led to a shot and 2 take-ons that have led to a goal. This is something that neither Jordan Henderson nor Calvin Phillips can really do. And then when we look at the defensive actions, he's got 24 tackles in comparison to Jordan Henderson's 9 and Calvin Phillips's 11. You could argue that Calvin Phillips hasn't played too many matches, but then I would argue that if he hasn't played any of these games at all, I don't think he should really be in contention for that England spot. And then when we look at tackles and interceptions, Kobbie Mainoo is 37. Much higher than Jordan Henderson and Calvin Phillips doing that defensive work. And when we look from the possession point of view and being able to progress the ball forwards, it's again these take-ons that I want to look at. His take-on success rate is 52%, which is much higher than the likes of Jordan Henderson and Calvin Phillips. He then has the ability to progress the ball forwards. He has 350 carries, and his progressive distance is much higher than that of Jordan Henderson and Calvin Phillips. And then we see just all of this put together is the proper package of a central midfielder who has the ability to go forwards, progress the ball forwards in that England side and allow them to have that little bit more balance. For me, I would definitely have him on the plane. Finally, before we end, I just wanted to illustrate what Kobbie Mainoo really offers at the heart of midfield, something that's completely different to the other options that England have. Here we have him in the centre of the park. He's about to receive the ball in the middle and he's about to be pressed up against by the Belgian midfield. Youri Tielemans is about to really converge on him, and it's all about how he takes the ball, controls it, realises there's a touch of space because of his great scanning and awareness of different areas, and it allows him to rotate, turn round, and then begin the England attack. This led to the penalty that England got, which obviously Ivan Toney converted, but it's the pass before the pass, if that makes sense, that I think is so impressive from Kobbie Mainoo. So here we have him about to receive the ball. He takes it, he brings it into his stride, and then you're looking at the Belgian midfielders. You've got 1, 2, and you've got 3. They're going to converge on him, but it's all about the way he rotates the ball around. He rotates himself around and then brings himself into a better position. Just look as he turns. He's able to dictate play by the movement of the football, the movement of himself, and no other England player is able to do this. I'd probably argue that Jude Bellingham can, but really, it's this kind of dynamism that I think is really missing from England's midfield. Yes, it's all very well and good positioning yourself well and passing through the lines, but at the same time, you need to have the ability to beat a man. Oftentimes, a tournament is going to be won by individual brilliance, and the ability for a midfielder to really beat that press that's happening right here before our very eyes, this press right here, the ability to beat that is second to none, and it's invaluable. Now, he turns Lukaku and Tielemans here. Look at this turn, look at this burst of speed, the acceleration, the ability to drive past him with his intricate touches. It just makes it look so easy, but also at the same time, it opens up the plane for him. Instead, he's eliminated 1, 2, and nearly 3 players with this single movement, and then he's got the option of passing out wide. Then he's got the option of Jude Bellingham here, who's calling for the ball currently, and then you're asking, can he make that pass? Can he make that touch? Well, yes, he can. Again, taking out 1, 2, 3 players here just opens up the space and the channels for England. Then you're moving on. He plays that pass into Bellingham, and that's obviously where England get that penalty shout from. I just think it's so incredibly impressive the way he's able to really drive through space, locate where the space is, and then make sure that he's able to play that correct pass. Here is another example of it. So Phil Foden currently has the ball, has had the ball taken off him, and the ball is about to be driven down that left-hand side. Now what you're asking of him here is to be able to find and locate the space. It's all well and good being marked by Doku right here, but what you're asking of an England player with caliber, with potential, and with talent is to be able to find the space for an attacking opportunity. So you've got Bowen out here on this right-hand side, Ivan Toney is currently being occupied, and you've got a load of Belgian defenders currently focused on the ball. So where is the space? And the space is actually out here. And what you're going to see is Kobbie Mainoo's intelligence, his scanning, to be able to find this area and move himself into it while the play is ongoing. And just look at the Belgian defenders as it goes on. The ball gets crossed in to the box, but look at Kobbie Mainoo. He's currently out of picture, but he's actually on his bike. He's moving. He's ready to go. Doku is none the wiser, and it means that he's able to get a run on him. And it just means that he's able to isolate that space, isolate those passes. Look at him here. He's managed to get in touch with the likes of Ivan Toney, who brings the ball down, and then that gets left for him, and he's able to take a shot on. This was his big chance missed, and I think that he's done a sensational job, not only to get himself into this position, but also to be able to get a shot on goal. He locates the space, isolated it, and made it for himself. I think he's a sensational talent that needs to be given a whole lot more credit, and definitely a spot on the plane to Germany. But my question to you guys is, what do you feel about Kobbie Mainoo? How good do you think he is, and do you think he deserves a spot on that England plane? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. For me, he solves the answer of England's midfield problem. But what do you think? Let me know. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learnt something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care.